is intense. Quand je te vois, mon cœur bat. Love is intense. Je serai là, toujours pour toi. Love is intense. Quand je te vois, mon cœur bat. Love is intense. Je serai là, toujours pour toi. Love is intense. Quand je te vois, mon cœur bat. Love is intense. Je serai là, toujours pour toi. Love is intense. Quand je te vois, mon cœur bat. Love is intense. Je serai là, toujours pour toi.
But we fell apart just in time.
your lips, but I hate the taste. No fun in this game. I will call all your bluffs, 'cause using bodies isn't good enough. Slow down, this ain't love. Well, we fell apart just in time. Ooh, you say at least it was worth a try. At least it was worth a try. At least it was worth a try. We keep playing games, can't go separate ways, break up all the same. We keep playing games, can't go separate ways, break up all the same. When we fell apart just in time.
Welcome to NR1Live for the final time this season at home in the Premier League, and Daniel Farker there on his way to do his press duties as the final time as a Premier League manager this season. But hopefully, of course, he'll be a Premier League manager again in the future. Big show coming up for today. Hopefully we're going to be joined by Grant Holt at some point. He is away at the cricket and he's probably 5 or 6 gin and tonics in, so fingers crossed for that one. If not, we'll have to talk to his book, which I think is behind us here. We've also got Simon Thomas's thoughts on the season as a whole and some stuff with Stuart Webber as well. So lots coming up. And of course, joining me in the studio, as usual, is the big man, Rob Newman. Thanks for coming in again, mate.
No worries.
Lots to talk about, as always. We'll always start with the teams. We've got the Norwich team coming up here. Not huge amounts of surprises, but one I think people will pick up on straight away is Drimmich is starting again at top for Norwich. You look at the rest of the team in terms of the lineup, very attacking. Buendia, Campbell, Hernandez. Perhaps Buendia would be the one in Campbell's position as the number 10.
Yeah, hopefully.
But Drimmich, why? Why is it happening? You know, from a manager's point of view, is he backing someone that he's brought in and he wants to prove? Because he's got a 3-year contract, so he's here for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So is it a case of getting him up to speed for next season? Because he hasn't had a huge amount of football, has he?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and I'm not going to criticise the manager. I've been a manager myself. I've bought a striker in myself that I believe in. Obviously, Daniel's brought this guy in at the start of the season.
How did your ones do?
He didn't do very well.
Did he?
I got sacked.
So that's what happens, see?
That's what happens.
Sacked.
That's what happens. But like I say, the manager must believe in him. 100% he must believe in him and whatever. Like, we've seen him over the last 4 or 5 games here, whether it be a start or as a sub. I cannot recall one bit of footage where I've spoke about it after and said, wow, he's got something to offer to the team. I'm still searching to see what he offers to the team. When you put Pukki's on the bench, you're playing this guy, you're saying, is it because of next year, he's going to be the main striker next year? What does that say about Pukki? Is Pukki going to be here? Because if Pukki's here, Pukki ripped it up last year in Division 1.
And just talking about Timo Pukki, this is what he does, isn't it? This is what he does his best. Just take a quick look at this.
Teemu Pukki low across the goalkeeper, finishes. He's on target in the Premier League, and Norwich City have won back at the Anfield Road end. They've scored against the European champions. Liverpool 4, Norwich City 1.
I mean, that's the first game of the season. He's a natural finisher. I mean, but he seems a shell of himself at the minute. I mean, is that why you just want to take him out the firing line? Because the team they've got today in terms of Buendia, Hernandez and Cantwell, they're the type of players that you think Pukki would link up with well, because Drmic is quite a static number 9, I would say. Yeah. Pukki's a bit more mobile, looking for those through balls. So you'd think it would suit Pukki more today than it would Drmic.
That goal there basically epitomises what Pukki's about. You know what I mean? It's a little slide rule pass from Buendia beyond the defence. He's making great runs, intelligent runs, getting on it and finishing it with aplomb. Like, you know what I mean? Drmic is sort of like more like a 9B, which makes him like a big, strong target man. He's not going to make those little runs in behind.
Oh, what, 9B? Is that who you
It's a 9B or a 9A. That's how I classify.
So the 9A is a
Sergio Aguero, a sharp, small striker, like a Pukki. Pukki would be classed as a 9A. Sharp, receives balls in behind. Whereas a 9B is you're playing more direct.
So does that always mean a 9A is better than a 9B?
For someone like Burnley, you look at Chris Wood and you look at Jay Rodriguez. Chris Wood's sort of like a 9B because they play direct. They kick it long for the keeper. Exactly. Yeah. But he's still classed as a 9B. You know what I mean? Because he's that man, he's the target man, and you can hit the long pass. It's a get-out ball. Norwich, if Dermot is playing that way, Norwich sort of like seem to, they have to sort of like change their game to play and push people up the pitch, more direct. And if Dermot wins it, they're around him. If he doesn't win it, he's going to stop the centre half or whoever, the opponent, from getting big headers so you get it higher up the pitch. Yeah. Norwich don't seem to be playing that. They still want to play out the back. And he's isolated all the time. He's isolated been so many times he's been isolated because they've tried to pass it, lost possession, and all of a sudden they're chasing back. Or they've given him a long ball in the corner. He's unable to get it. You know what I mean? Again, I feel for him, like, you know what I mean, because he hasn't got that great pace.
So what would you class a Grant Holt then? A 9B or a 9A? Or was he a mix of the both?
I think he's a mix of the both.
Oh, right, we'll have to talk to him. We're going to talk to Holty now. You're a 9A and a 9B.
Good
Holty,
9A.
apparently. That's a good thing to
9A. be. 9A.
Good thing, is it? Jesus.
That means you're a utility player. That means you can do both. That's a great thing to have.
I've seen him play, mate. I've seen him play.
So Holty, just talking about the side of him today, it's obviously Drmic's, you know, being a centre forward yourself and looking at the differences between Pukki and Drmic. Can you see the sense of why Daniel Farke is persisting with Drmic at the minute? Is it a case of trying to get him up to speed for the Championship?
I honestly don't know. He obviously sees something in him that he feels he can do a job. For me, I'm pretty similar with Rob at the moment. I can't really put my finger on one thing that he's done where I thought, oh yeah, he's got a little bit about him, he's done that. But look, we've been there before, we've seen it. We've seen people being teams that aren't doing really well, aren't creating chances. We talk about Teemu, about his lack of goals at the moment, but they ain't getting the chances. So no matter what forward you've got, if they ain't given the opportunity to put in the back of the net, I watched the game last week, I think Teemu got one chance, and as I said, he looked like a guy who was out of form at the moment. But as I said, his team in general, they aren't really creating that much all over the pitch, so it's difficult to say anything about anyone at the moment.
And Teemu's not had any shots on target in the last 7 games. And that, look, for a striker, that comes down to probably a bit of service. But you look at the team they're putting out today in terms of Buendia, Cantwell and Hernandez, that's about as supportive as they could get, isn't it, for a striker? So that would suit someone like a Pukki today, wouldn't it?
Well, we've said that a few weeks ago. Everyone was saying the other week, last week, the Championship team that was effectively back, i.e. with everyone playing like basically the Championship team, Buendia, Anel on the right, Toddy, Steve G in there. So, and he didn't get the opportunities, he didn't get the chances. And it just seems to me a little bit at the moment that they're doing a lot of individual stuff, but they ain't really creating any out-and-out chances. And I said it's very difficult when you get the top end, when you're in that level, you get there, and it's difficult. You don't get chances. But that's what I said. I just don't think, if it's Teemu not playing, whichever one's been playing, a Dimic or Teemu, it's a bigger task than it was last year, because you've now got to hold the ball up. You're now going to take the players up the pitch, and I think that's been one of the biggest problems. We don't retain the ball long enough. We keep it well in spurts, but if we can't keep it and we've got nowhere to go with it, then it always comes back at us.
Holly, when you played, basically, you were up there, obviously, great goal scorer, like intelligent runs, and you had a little Wes Houlihan in the team. You know what I mean? Like, and his little slide rule passes were fantastic. But Wes would play in that number 10 role. You know what I mean? And sort of like he was your main provider in terms of if Wes gets the ball and he's faced up to the goal, 25, 30 yards out, you know he can slide rule pass. Someone like a Buendia, I feel, has to play in that number 10 role and sort of like take away his defensive duties. He's not going to defend for you because he wants to receive balls behind the opposing defensive midfielders and in front of the centre halves. And if he gets them, someone like a Pookie knows that his little slide rule passes are going to get there. You know what I mean? Norwich haven't had that. Emmy's played on the right-hand side since the restart and whatever like. And the amount of times he's got the ball, he's in the right-back position. So as a striker, you must be pulling your hair out because probably the most creative player in the team is like 60 yards away from you as a striker.
Are you just bringing that up because we disagreed about it on the golf course over there? Is that where you bring it back up again the second time? Look, to me, Emi Buendia, I get what you're saying. He can't play as a 10 because as soon as you put him in there, you don't know consistently what he's going to do. And that's as I said with Wes. Everyone knew what Wes was going to do as a number 10. You played the ball on his feet, and the like it is, he's either going to try and beat someone, or he's going to slide you. To me, he knew his role. I don't see Emi as a number 10. I don't see where all these chances have came from that he's supposedly created. Because I think if he's created that many good chances and not put in the back of there, there's no way in the world Norwich should be where they are. No. If he's done that, then that is a serious problem. But to me, I just think it's a generalisation. You talked there about me having Wes in there. We just have different outballs. I think the way the team's playing, they've got one way of playing in terms of one way of creating a chance. I don't think they've got enough tools where they can hurt you. They haven't got anyone who's going to smash in from 35 yards. They've got no one to feel when balls are coming in the box. And I just think it's a very much similar style. If we're going to score, like we did in the Championship, you can go through the Championship last year and look at our goals. Predominantly, probably 75% of our goals were exactly the same. And they're doing well. And
that's the point, isn't it, Hall? We've said it before on the show. Look, there doesn't seem to be too much adaptability in this team. They have that way of playing, and that, I hate using the words kind of plan B, but they don't seem to have another way of. But that's just down to the players, isn't it? They too kind of pigeonholed in the way they play and not back to. Because I was saying last week, I played in 7 different positions for Norwich. You even played in goal for Norwich at some point. Yeah. I mean, Hall, you must have played in a few different positions over your time. So, is it a case of those boys are just not capable of doing it at this level and finding another way to win a football match?
I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's finding a way. I don't think you have to look too far from the philosophy. We've had this before. When you've got a plan, that's your plan. And that's fine. You can play whichever way you want. You want to keep it, you want to move it, you want to do it. And it worked with Championship. The difference is it's finding different ways because when you get in the Premier League, like we well know, it's very difficult to score goals. It's very difficult to get. You don't see many teams lower down getting little slide balls in the box and getting put clean through. It doesn't happen because they defend so well as the attack. And my biggest concern is, like I said last week, against Watford, the goals that they concede are really sloppy in terms of, in the Premier League, everyone should be working hard for a goal. We gift goals, the same as the weekend against West Ham. You gift them 4 goals to a guy who's only scored 4 a season, who isn't even a proven forward. I actually don't even think he's that great as being a centre forward. He's fantastic on the wing. But we gifted goals. We scored after 3.5 minutes against Watford. And we started off really well. We're playing well. We're cruising. And all of a sudden, we give a silly throw in at the left-hand side. Goes back to Tim. Tim then goes back and gives it to Jamal. And all of a sudden, a free kick down. Bring up the big boys and they score. And that's been the biggest problem. You can't gift goals in the Premier League because you never get back into games.
No. Fantastic stuff, Holly. Thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it. And hopefully see you next season. A bit more positivity.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks. I mean, you know, he's not said anything too different, but I think a lot of people have said, really. You know, he makes some really good points. But actually, for me, the biggest point I found in that was he doesn't find Buendia as a number 10. He thinks he's a bit... But that almost says to me again, well, what is Buendia's best position then?
And what's Buendia giving you in the team?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Buendia's not going to, he doesn't want to chase up and back. He doesn't want to be a defender. He wants to be in the final third of the pitch. So try him as a number 10 because what he's providing out on the right-hand side since I've seen him restart, because obviously I've seen all the Norwich games. Before that, I hadn't seen him.
Yeah.
I've seen him every single week now. And what has Buendia give you? We're saying what's Drimish give you? What's Buendia giving you? Okay, he has little tricks every now and again. He can go past. But how many slide rule passes? How many times has he been in an area where a slide rule pass has been? The time, I think it was the Man U game. The time when Todd scored, Buendia, he received the pass from Buendia in a number 10 position in the centre of the pitch.
We promised we weren't going to talk about him today.
No,
you just mentioned
no,
his name about 50 times in a minute.
But he's your playmaker.
Yeah.
Like Wes was a playmaker then, and I know what Holly's saying. He's not a winger. Hernandez is a winger who's got pace. You as a winger, you had the ability to burst past someone. Andy Buendia can't do that. He needs trickery. It's no good getting trickery in your right back position because he's got to beat about 10 players. He receives it in this area here. He hasn't got to beat anyone. He's just got to receive it, turn, slide it.
Yeah.
Simple.
No, good stuff. Look, we heard from Simon Thomas earlier on the week about his highlights and lowlights of the season.
How did it feel having Norwich back in the Premier League? Surreal be one word, because I don't think any Norwich fan in his or her right mind would have predicted at the start of last season we'd end up winning the Championship and getting promoted. I was also, if I'm honest, a little bit worried. I looked at our recruitment, or lack of it, and didn't think we probably had the team to make a decent fist of it. Best moment? Easy. 14th of September, 2019.
Man City have it. They play it short to John Stones. Norwich putting him under pressure. Norwich have done it!
Without doubt, one of the best days at Carrow I've ever witnessed in person. The most incredible game. And it gave us all the belief that we had what it would take to be a force in the Premier League. How wrong we were. Worst moment? The resumption of the Premier League after lockdown.
Chance here for Southampton. The ball's run for Ings and he's put it in the net.
Because we have been, I hate to say this, abysmal. Defeat after defeat. A small glimmer of hope in the FA Cup against United when we played fairly well. But the rest of it has been utterly forgettable. So I'm going to group all those matches into one. The post-lockdown era in the Premier League has been forgettable. So what does the future hold for Norwich? It's going to be difficult, let's be honest. One of the things that's going to count against us is we are finishing the season on a dismal run of form, and we don't have the usual buffer of a proper closed season and pre-season to sort these things out. The gap between this season finishing and a gruelling Championship season beginning again is going to be very, very short. That's going to be hard to get out of the system. The confidence levels are going to be at an all-time low, and just because you're in a lower division doesn't suddenly mean you're going to be playing like Brazil. And the other problem is, when you put yourself in the Premier League, you put your best players in the shop window. So the likes of Ben Godfrey are going to be up for grabs. And the problem is, because we've been on such a bad run of form, their value may have gone down. So I think the idea that we're going to bounce straight back is rather optimistic. Sorry.
Well, Rob, you mentioned in there about the buffer of not being much of one between the end of this season and the start of next one, and how that could have a detrimental effect. For players, for me, I want to get back playing as quick as I can after you've just been relegated. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got relegated Bristol City, and it was 10 weeks, 2 months, 2.5 months. That's a long time to suffer. Yeah, and to dwell, basically. These have got like a 3 or 4 week turnaround. And like you say, as a player, you say, right, okay, we're gonna be on it. That's why this game's important today. Let's finish with a home performance.
Yeah.
Performance. Forget about the results. A performance. You know what I mean? If we get beat 1-0, but we played well, positives. The last game against West Ham, there was no positives at all. No. Jockey, you know what I mean? Like I say, but today, let's finish with a positive performance. So when clubs come in next year in the Championship, they will know what to expect. And like I say, they've got Man City next week, which is a free one for them. Today is important, and like you say, they'll have a 4 or 5 week turnaround to really hit the ground running and saying, listen, you come to Carrow Road, it's going to be a tough game. And expect to get beat.
Yeah, and you also mentioned in his chat there, Simon Thomas, about Ben Godfrey, and we've got his stats here, and he's been one of the probably highlights of the season. Difficult for a youngster to come into such an important area of the team in the Premier League, and actually has done pretty well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I like him. I think he's got a great attitude towards the game. You know what I mean? He's strong, he's powerful, he's pacey. You know what I mean? All the things that you look for in a centre half. If they've got that, you know what I mean? They've got half a chance of being successful.
Could this almost be a better learning curve for him in a struggling team than it would have been if they were flying? Because sometimes things are easier. When you have a little bit of adversity, it can give you that sort of something you maybe haven't found before.
He's probably come across scenarios in games which he wish he hadn't. You know what I mean? But like you say, it grows you as a player. He's still a baby. You know what I mean? He's still young in terms of experience, in terms of games. He's played 1 season in the Premiership. I'd like to see him stay for another season in the Championship, because that's not going to harm him. Yeah, I mean, he's had this experience. He will grow as a player, and I think he should next year in the Championship be that leader, which he's tried to be this year, that he hasn't had alongside him. But he can become that leader next year.
But he's a valuable asset, so is it a case of people could come in for him? Would his value have gone down though? Does it affect to someone of his age, been in this experience from where he was valued at probably before lockdown to where he is now? Do you think that'd be affected too much?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because it's not going to be a ridiculous amount. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put a figure on it as well, but this guy's still potential. He's not fulfilled his potential. We've seen enough positives in his games. Well, I have since the restarts and whatever, like over the course of the season. He's got all the tools to be a really, really good centre half and whatever. Like, so if you're buying him, you're not buying that finished article. You're buying someone that's still got room, a lot of room for improvement and to go. And if he fulfills that potential, he's going to be a very good player.
And Rio Ferdinand, of course, likes him a lot. I wonder why.
He represents him, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, that might be the case.
Lucky man Rio.
Yeah. And talking of finances, we're going to hear a little bit from Stuart Webber here.
Yeah, so I mean, we're fortunate. You know, we're never. You know, our record signing since we've been here is £3.5 million pounds. You know, in 3 years for one player. Do I think we'll beat that this year? Maybe. You know, we're fortunate that we can buy before we sell for the first time since Daniel and I have been here, which is really nice. Financially, we've paid off the training ground. You know, paid all that bond back and made some other developments to it. You know, we've cleared sort of the debts, if you like. So we're in a really good place. Will we spend as much as our competitors in the Championship? Absolutely not. You know, we only look at Leeds last week turned a signing permanent for 15 million. That's not us. So although we'll go down with parachute payments and that puts us in a really healthy position and it enables us to develop a strong squad and a competitive squad on the pitch, we're still not going to be the biggest spenders. We will have good room for a decent wage budget though, and that will help. So I think what I'd say is it's positive and for sure since I've been here it's the best position we've been in going into the Championship and you know it enables us to be really sort of competitive and have sort of no excuses if you like. But at the same time, let's not get deluded into thinking that we're going to be the big spenders in that league because there'll be a lot more spenders than us. There'll be clubs of owners who will continue to invest. So it just doesn't mean that we're guaranteed success. And I know people will always want to attribute a budget and go, well, they got a budget at that, they should be successful. But football doesn't work like that. You know, we wouldn't have got promoted last year if football worked like that. Huddersfield wouldn't have got promoted the season before if football worked like that. And likewise, Leeds wouldn't have spent 16 years in the Championship or whatever it is if football worked like that. So what we can't do is get too caught up on that. But what I can reassure people is, and what's exciting for us down here, is we can do our business. We can do our business early. The model doesn't change. You know, it's still young, hungry players who we can develop and make better. That's how we'll do it. But hopefully we can afford to maybe buy some slightly more ready younger players as opposed to real sort of gambles and that I've got to say that's quite exciting.
Well, it's certainly been a massive A star next to the financial tick of the football club in the last few years from Stuart Webber and his team. You know, there's no denying that, but obviously things on the pitch haven't gone so well. But it's interesting there what he's talking about, the type of players they're now looking at, rather than they've had to chuck in some youngsters because they didn't expect to be here quite so early in the Premier League. They're looking for a little bit, still youngsters that want to achieve and get better, but ones that have already got a bit more experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the youngsters that they played in the Championship last year were the main performers. Your Aarons and your Lewises. You know what I mean? Like I say, they were two standout players in the Championship. You know what I mean? So hopefully they're still going to be here. So and they've had this year now. So in terms of you've got the recruitment's got to be right. You know what I mean? You've got to pick those players.
Do you think Stuart Webber's almost got a point to prove next year? Or the whole team the whole club has, in terms of their project and what they're trying to do.
He's saying that. He said we're solid. Like you say, A star for the finances is fantastic. You know what I mean? But it's a healthy budget. You know what I mean? So people aren't going to look at this and saying, well, I can get another X amount there. Norwich is a Premiership club. They're looking to go straight back up.
It's an attractive club to a decent Premier or Championship player, isn't it? They could attract people.
Absolutely. And the way Norwich play and the whole thing about Norwich City is solid. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it is solid. So why not come to Norwich and whatever? Like, so they don't need to look for like younger players. They've got enough young players here. Yeah, I mean, they've got enough younger players on the bench today. Why look for younger players? Look for I'm not saying go for 30-year-olds, 31-year-olds. Go for the 24s and the 25 with a bit more experience, a bit more nous when it comes to playing football. You've got all the youngsters already. You're not going to play a team full of 21-year-olds next year. You know what I mean? That's where you get the balance, and hopefully they will do that.
Yeah, and perhaps that's the level he's talking about.
Yeah.
Is that sort of mid-range, sort of younger 20s to mid-20s sort of range? Because that seems to be the area I think he's kind of hinting on, which I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's what they do. You mean like they need good, solid players. Now, what we've alluded to earlier, but players that know how to win games when things are going against you, and they will go against them in the Championship. Don't kid yourself. Everyone's going to be a stroll in the park. There were times when you need to dig deep, get everyone around you, and whatever. Like, go and get some people like that. You know what I mean? Maybe not technically as good, but leaders on the pitch.
Yeah. And we're going to go back to a positive result from this season in the FA Cup against Burnley. Let's take a look at that.
Hanley, Zimmerman, among the players forward. There's Brancic's delivery. It's not bad. It's Hanley's header! He's got the goal! It's the first goal from a Norwich City defender this season, and it is Grant Hanley, once of Blackburn Rovers, who has scored against Burnley in front of the Norwich City supporters. He thinks about an early cross, then decides against it. That's allowed Burnley to get the ball players back. So he allows Brancic to take over. He works into the area. Lucas Rupp gets a touch. Keeper saves. Dermich pokes the rebound in. Norwich City have a second goal. It may well be checked with VAR for offside, but Dermich certainly thinks he scored. A tap in from close range, and it is Burnley 0, Norwich City 2. Dermich with the tap in. Burnley have got Aaron Lennon in behind Norwich here, right hand side. He plays the ball across. Vidra slips. Norwich don't deal with it though, and here's Robbie Brady who plays it back to Vidra. He can't control. Eventually it falls for Peters, who hits a ferocious shot into the corner of the net, and Burnley are back in it. Norwich did not cover themselves in glory defensively there. They had many chances to clear it, they couldn't. They set up for Eric Peters on the edge of the penalty area. He drives it low beyond Ralph Bierman. Burnley 1, Norwich 2, it is game on.
I think something that's been kind of very evident during the season is that lack of leadership, and Grant Hanley, who's scoring in that game, is one of those, isn't he? And you know, he's a big miss for Norwich this season in terms of his leadership and strength and personality on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's what we call a good old pro. You know what I mean? He's been there, not the most gifted in terms of pace, in terms of like technical ability. But he's a winner. He's a winner, and not only have Norwich missed him, people alongside him like Ben Godfrey has missed him as well, because you learn off of people like Hanley. You know what I mean? He's that solid pro, does everything right. You know what I mean? And people like Lewis, Aarons and Godfrey learn off of people like that.
Yeah, and is he the type of player that we were saying earlier about, do you know, some of the games they lost, they might have eked out a draw, and that's been the difference, isn't it, to some teams? You get 5 or 6 draws, 5 or 6 extra points, Norwich are banging, trying to stay up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You mean, when we got relegated, like in the 90s, I mean, it came to the season, we said, if we'd have drawn another 2 or 3 rather than going for the wins and then losing them, we would have stayed up. Yeah. Maybe if that Southampton game, Project Restart, if they'd have drawn, that would have given them the confidence. But they didn't seem to have that leadership on the pitch. And someone like Hanley, I mean, okay, your manager has the plan and whatever, but someone on the pitch who knows what's going wrong and says, listen, 2 fullbacks, you ain't going forward for the next 10 minutes. You're standing alongside me here. I don't care. I'll get the telling off from the manager, but you are staying here because I recognise it as a massive danger for us. Yeah. Someone like Hanley would do that. Yeah,
and we've got a quick matchup to look at now. I think it's Lewis and McNeil for Burnley. Here we go. Key matchup today. We feel one of the areas. You know, Jamal, it's been difficult, Jamal, because he fell out of the team when Byron came in, he did pretty well, and he's sort of been forced back in since restart, and he's not quite hit the ground running like he was beforehand.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I've seen over since the restart is he gets in great positions and he's got space in front of him and he'll gallop because he's got tremendous space and technically good on the ball. And then all of a sudden it's like he stops. He stops rather than play like little link-up plays in the last third. But he'll stop and he'll turn it and he'll give it back to closer. Yeah. And you think, well, why has he done that?
And just very quickly, is that a youngster thinking, I don't want to give the ball away?
Maybe. Like I say, we spoke about that as well, like Darren as well. I mean, like I say, be positive. If you give the ball away, people see the pass you're trying to play. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I say, top clubs do all the time. They will try. It doesn't happen all the time, but they're trying. They see the pass, and people will say, "Listen, he's passed it."
Sorry. We'll cover that at half time. Okay. Always positive as ever. Here's the countdown. I'm going to join Chris Gorham.
sure they have been. Darren Eadie's just joined me. I know you weren't playing all those years ago, Darren. It'd be easy to say
quite.
that. But
I can't believe I just joined at that stat as well. It's pretty damning, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, that's it. I mean, as much as this season was always going to be a struggle, and relegation maybe isn't
but finding ways to lose football matches and, as Chris has said on the commentary there, shoot yourself in the foot massively. I mean, Emi Buendia, it's not a massive elbow, it's not a really sort of vigorous bad one, but you can't raise your arms and shove it in the back of someone's head, can you?
No. You know what I mean? Like I say, attitude for me there stinks.
Well, and the thing is as well, he's got to understand, when you're playing a team like Burnley, they're going to hustle you, they're going to hold on to your leg when you're down, they're not going to make things easy for you, but it's a petulance of, oh, you can't do that to me, you just can't, you can't do it like that.
Absolutely, it's a cop-out for me, it's a cop-out, it's an easy way, you know what I mean, like I say, my attitude's great, I'm going to be doing, I'll show I care, that don't show you care, you know what I mean, that's just stupidity, just stupidity, you know what I mean, like, and the second one, Dermot, that's even worse, you know what I mean, that is sort of like a
and
really,
we're
really
shouting for me, you know, hold it up, because you're under a bit of pressure, and he has a poor touch, and then launches himself.
And then another poor touch, and he gets sent off. Down to 9 men after 45 minutes. Yeah. I say you cannot make it up.
What do you reckon the conversation those two are having in the changing room? Because they'll be sat in there talking to each other like, so Buendia would have been in there, Dermot would have walked in, he would have probably thought it's half-time gone, where's the rest of the lads? They would have sat down and had a little chat between them, wouldn't they? Then they would have heard there's a goal scored. They must be going, oh my God, I don't want to.
I think Buendia will be feeling sorry for himself, thinking, how can you send me off for that? Like you said, I've not seen it on the replay, and whatever, like, you know, I mean, he's cocked his elbow and he's gone to put it into the lad's head and whatever. Dermot has no excuse for that. You know what I mean? And Dia will probably be thinking, oh, I can't believe they sent me off for that. It was nothing. You know what I mean? I do it all the time. No, you don't do it all the time. You know what I mean? But like you say, Sean Dyche's team, Burnley, they're in your face all the time. You've got to stand up to it. This is a man's game. This is a proper game.
And standing up to it in the right way, isn't it? Not making stupid tackles, not giving silly free kicks, not getting... Because they haven't earned the right to actually... have that arrogance about them to think that someone can't hustle you and be brave against you. They've got to learn to deal with that first of all before they can have that arrogance.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. The way they were feeling in that box, the two of them in that dressing room, the other 9's come in now, they should be laying into them, strips into them.
Do you think that will happen?
Don't know, but I would. I would. Because they've let themselves down, they've let the club down and whatever. Like, this is the last game of the season, and now they're in the Premiership, 9 men against probably the worst team you can play. I mean, because they will just.
You couldn't write it though, could you? The scenario, what has just happened in front of us, from a game which seemed fairly even to 2 sending offs, and then a poor sort of defending for an overhead kick and go 1-0 down at half time.
Could have been cleared. Alex Tetty should have cleared it. You know what I mean? One ball into the box again. You know what I mean? Like I say, an overhead kick. Yeah. Just gone and crept into the corner. You know what I mean? I'm scratching my head, mate. I'm scratching my head.
I'm sure the fans are probably feeling the same way as we are. And we've got James Watson on a Zoom call with us, James. Is that a wry smile? It's not a pleasant one, I guess. And I mean, what have you just made of that, particularly the last 10 minutes of that half?
I mean, it's a pretty decent kind of metaphor for the season, really, isn't it? Like, there's been promising starts. Looks like there was a chance that, you know, we're in this, we deserve to be at this level, and then it's just been silly moments of naivety, if you want to call it that, and now we're looking down the barrel of there being no hope. Do
you think there's a case to be said, look, probably Daniel Farke has actually said to his team, you know, we need to be a bit more physical against a side like this, and actually they've misinterpreted it to go over the line, because they are a physical team, Burnley, but they're not aggressive. They're just physical. They like to get in and around you. And do you know what? If I was playing against someone like a Buendia and I was a manager, I'd be saying, do exactly that, because he will lose his head.
Oh, absolutely. But I think I don't think there's any way there would be quite a level of miscommunication that either of those two players, hot-headed as we've seen previously they are, should be doing other things like that. I mean, Buendia, you know, looks harsher on the replay that the official got shown, but at the end of the day, as soon as you raise your arms, you're asking for it. And Dermot, well, yeah, it's just silly.
And James, where do we go from here? I mean, is it taken into the half now? What do they try and get from this next 45 minutes? Because all we talked about before the game was a little bit of pride, come out with a decent performance, and already we're staring down the barrel of a 1-0 defeat so far with 9 men. I mean, it couldn't have gone any worse, could it?
Well, I think the sad thing is as well is you can't even use it as we've got half, just stick on a few of the youth prospects, Martin, Eadie, and kind of ground them up, because the team's going to be defending for the second 45 minutes. And I think it's just genuinely, it's a shame. I think it's a shame for the lads. It's probably a shame for Daniel, because obviously that ruins 45 minutes of a chance of what is realistically a pre-season friendly now at this time. We don't know how sure it's going to be, but is going to be a sense of developing the squad now for the Championship, because that's the level we're at the moment.
Yeah. Well, James, well, thanks for joining us. Rob, it makes a good point there about actually, you know, I guess Daniel Farke may have used this game today to blood maybe those central defenders, Zimmerman to come back in. I mean, that's all gone out the window now, isn't it? You're down to 9 men. I suppose he still can make changes, but the actual game plan of what he thought he was going to do, for 45 minutes, he didn't prepare for this, did he? Let's be honest.
No, you couldn't prepare for this. This next 45 minutes is going to be serious attack v defence. You know what I mean? It's like damage limitation. If they come out of this losing 1-0, then the 9 will deserve a lot of credit, basically, and who play in the second half, whether it's the same 9, whether they bring someone else on and whatever, like, you know what I mean? They will deserve credit if they come out of this 1-0, because Burnley will probably be the worst team for like direct football, and they will be looking to get up to Wood, who's done really well. You know what I mean? Holding the ball up. Rodriguez is running around him and whatever. So it's character. You know what I mean? You'll see characters, and like I say, the 9 that's going to be out there in the second half are going to be really up against it. So
it's Buendia, he's gone.
Yep.
There's he's gone. What do they do now? What's next, mate?
The white flag. Someone's going to come out with a white flag.
But also, what do they do? How many depends? You just go 2 banks to 4.
Yeah, you've got to be. It's got to be a 4-4-3, 4-4. Yeah, 4-4-0. 4-4-0.
Do you leave an outlet? Do you have anyone up there at all?
You can. I mean, if anything, you just say to Hernandez, if it breaks, you try and get on it. You know what I mean? Goalkeeper's got to try and push up. They can't play from the back now. They cannot play from the back, because they will lose it up here. Kick, because he's been kicking every ball like long anyway. So kick it up here, put Kenny McLean, because he's been decent in the air, to be fair, and just get the ball up and around here, because if you start playing back here, you're asking for trouble.
And this is properly like we would do in training now, attack versus defence. But we would do it for what, 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
This is 45 minutes in a Premier League game when you're bottom of the league with 21 points down to 9 minutes. That's a tough ask, isn't it, to stay? But even if they come out of this at 1-0 and lose and got 2 players sent off, do you consider that as a positive for 45 minutes to come out of that?
For these 9 on the pitch, yeah. For the 2 that's gone, no. I mean, there's no feelings for them whatsoever, other than stupidity. You know what I mean? Like you say, the probability Norwich ain't going to score. You know, I mean, they can't score with like 11 men. You know what I mean? So they're not going to score with like 8 men on the pitch, 8 outfielders. So, you know what I mean? So that's a given, I think, anyway. So if they come out of this 1-0, we will be sat here at the end of the game saying they have defended for their lives. Don't fold like a pack of cards. The keeper's made some great saves already. You know what I mean? So we will be praising these 9 people on that pitch. All the ones on the pitch, the subs will have to come on because they have to use all 5.
Well,
because
they can make 5 subs, can't they? Which is that a benefit in this situation? So they can they can change the back 4 if they need to. All of them.
Absolutely, and Zimmerman's on the bench. You've got another lad on the centre half. Bring them all on. You know what I mean? Put all the defenders on and just defend for your lives. Adam Eadie will chase lost causes and whatever. Get some legs on there and whatever. Like, but it's tough, mate. It's going to be a long 45 minutes.
And in terms of those youngsters that are in the squad today and the ones that are out on the pitch at the moment. I mean, what are they going to learn? I mean, since lockdown and then the restart, all these players, these youngsters we've tried to blood in, they've basically been through everything in such a short space of time of sending off, losing from being in line, not scoring goals, having to defend, giving away penalty, virtually everything in such a condensed period of that short part of their career so far. Is it a good learning curve for them, or is it not? I mean, what are they going to get out of this today?
They're not going to get a lot of this today. You know what I mean? They've had the adulation the end of last season. Yeah, we're Premiership players. You know what I mean? Do they think they're Premiership players? They shouldn't start thinking that now, because they've not really done enough, because the 21 points shows that they've not been good enough. You know what I mean? Put it down as part of your learning curve, as the experience that you have gained, but don't come away from this season thinking that you are established Premiership players, because you are a million miles from that, the youngsters. But use it. Go back to the Championship, show that you're Premiership players by clearing up the Championship next year, and then the next time you come back up, hopefully this will have stood you in good stead, and we won't be talking at the end of the season that they're going down again. They can become an established thing, but don't go away from this season thinking that you're Premiership players, because you're not.
For what it's worth, we have got match stats so far of half time. I mean, it doesn't show. What we should have done is a percentage of players as well on there, because that would have been a nice stat to have as well. But again, Norwich have had decent enough possession, you know, shots on target. It's a fairly even game,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Ben Godfrey's had a
Yes.
great opportunity. He
Yeah.
probably should have scored. And they find themselves 1-0 down with 9 men. And it's all of a sudden, it's a completely different second half to what you were preparing for probably 5 minutes before it.
Oh yeah, no, the game plan's gone out the window. It's ridiculous. And like you say, Ben Godfrey had a good header. He tacked it really well. Went straight at the keeper. That happens and whatever. Like, but keeper's done well. Pushed it far. I mean, that was our only chance. No chances in open play.
No.
You know what I mean? It was just set pieces. Burnley have looked more positive when it balls up towards down channels and whatever. Like, they play sort of like the old-fashioned way.
But if you look at a classic centre forward in terms of holding the ball up, and Wood's done that really well today. There was an opportunity where I think he held the ball up. He held 2 defenders off, Godfrey and Closer, for Tarkowski. No, I think it was Rodriguez to join him
for the shot.
I mean, he had to run 10 yards to get the shot away, but he held those 2 players off.
We knew Wood was going to get it.
Yeah.
We knew Wood was strong enough. Chest it. Wood, you know what I mean? Like,
You've got
Wood
Dermot
just
doing
dropped it down.
Maradona turns on the halfway line. That's when he's got to hold the ball up.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You mean you play like as Hernandez did really well. It was like a little ball into, and Hernandez has looked for the one in behind. Just first time it in the space. Give Hernandez a chance to show how quick he is. But like you say, he's tried a Maradona turn in the centre of the pitch and lost it again. Can't happen.
They're clearly preparing for next season, but you know, today was an opportunity to try and take something from this season to going into the next one. Now again, it's just going to be a little bit of negativity, which it was going to be. Questions asked about players, mentalities, you know, going into a game like this. You know, that's not the kind of feelings you want, because the next season is going to be pretty sharp around the corner, and you've got Man City next, with now, you know, 2 players missing through suspension as well, going to Man City. Have they even got enough to be able to fill the bench?
They will have. They will have, and I'll probably make a statement now that I'll speak to you after the Man City game. The 2 people that come in for those 2 players will give you more than what those 2 players have given you probably since the restart. And that, whether it's Eadie, whether it's Pukki, you know what I mean, they will give you more. They will go to Man City with a resolve. There'll be 2 people in that team that probably like are young and they're going to start when they didn't think they would be starting, because like 2 of the so-called experienced ones have gone now. Yeah. So I'm saying that next week against Man City, you will probably see a decent performance, you know what I mean? But don't worry about Man City at the moment, mate, you know what I mean? Because 45 minutes is what we're looking at now. And fingers crossed, mate, it doesn't become a humiliation.
No. Well, it is time for the second half. I'm going to go back and join Cuscorum. You're going to go and get your kit on. What else could possibly happen in the second 45 minutes? Let's wait and see. We'll see you after the game. the concentration, is it? One of the easiest crosses he'll have to ever deal with.
Yeah.
No pressure on him whatsoever. Just a poor touch into his own net.
Poor touch, middle of the goal, shinned it into the bottom corner. You know what I mean? So, but like I said, there was no one around him. Could have let it go for a goal kick. Yeah. But let that go now. You know what I mean? Because I thought him and Zimmerman, along with basically all 9 that started that half, I thought they did really well.
Did it help with Zimmerman in there? Because you could see him actually controlling players. You could see him organising and shouting and clapping. You could see he's actually, that's one thing I noticed being stood out there and watching it, because you can hear it all now, is you could hear him doing that, which showed a little bit of leadership.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so like people like Max Aarons and Ben Godfrey need people like him alongside you. You know what I mean? He can do his job, but he can make sure you're doing your job as well. And that helps when you're a youngster as well. You know what I mean? He's got that ability to do that. And on that 45 minutes alone, showed how important he is to the back line.
Yeah, you take that mistake out, it is a 0-0. Yeah. I mean, essentially it doesn't matter if you've got 10 or 9 in a defensive bank of 8, does it? You're still playing a bank of 8. And actually, has that sort of shown a little bit of Norwich's vulnerabilities? Actually, if they do not let their fullbacks get forward quite so much and be a bit more solid, that they can defend and keep clean sheets. I know they've scored no own goal, but actually, is that a sense of it?
It's proven. Proof's in the pudding. Proof's in the pudding. If you'd have played that way all season, would you have lost as many goals? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't have scored more, but how many have they scored? They haven't scored no more anyway. So surely 0-0s, 1-0s, I mean, it's points. Yeah. It's points. It gives you a chance to grow and grow and grow. And Hernandez has made one run from wide.
Nearly scored.
Nearly scored. Pace, power, direct, one long ball in behind it.
But is it the fact that Pukki wasn't there, or Drumic wasn't there, or Buendia wasn't there, or Campbell wasn't there, that's given him the space to be able to run into? Maybe. Because he hasn't had the opportunity to do that before, whereas he had the freedom of the whole end of that pitch to make those runs today. But there's no reason why he shouldn't be doing that when they've got 11 players on the pitch.
Not at all. Hernandez, his asset is his pace. He's got fantastic pace. You know what I mean? And he's proven that there. He's run from wide to the centre. No one got near him, to be fair. So you work around it. You know what I mean? Okay, if Pukki and Buendia and Cantwell, Drumic, whoever's in the middle, you come outside, you swap. You know what I mean? There's ways to do it. But in the first half, for the first half an hour, it was same old stuff. Everything was congregated in the middle. Fullbacks high up the pitch. Everyone's coming in the middle. You mean there's no space? There was space there today. Burnley, switched off. You know what I mean? Like I say, but Hernandez's pace is fantastic. You know what I mean? One long ball in space. That's all Burnley were doing. Burnley down the channels for Rodriguez. Rodriguez is nowhere near as quick as Hernandez. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's pushed pressure on the Burnley back line, and that's what they did. But like I say, it was a one-off. But in that house, like I said at half time, if they come out of this like 1-0, you've got to praise all those players on that pitch. The ones that started, the subs that came on, they did a work out. But I think the 9 that started that half for 30 minutes, they dug in and they did not want to concede. And you could see that grit and determination when they were blocking shots and throwing themselves into tackles and whatever. Like, they have got to have tremendous credit.
And that's hard work, isn't it, as well? That's to do that for 45 minutes. Concentration mentally, but also physically as well. And probably the last team you want to go and play once you start to do that is Man City away from home.
No, absolutely. And like I say, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. There's going to be 2 players in there next week that probably, hopefully, like, are going to be Eadie, I mean, Martins, whatever. Go and play in the Etihad. You ain't. What can you lose now? Nothing. You're down. You're relegated. You know what I mean? Go there, enjoy it. Give some of them young kids experience that they probably won't. Well, they won't get for another season. No. Give them that like hunger to say when we go in the championship.
There's no excuse not to now, is there?
No, there's no excuse not to. I mean, I thought a few of them should have played today, but hey, listen, whatever reason he's picked the team is down to him, and say that's his choice. But Man City is an opportunity. You're playing against the top team in a fantastic arena. Go and give those young kids an experience that they're not going to get for another 12 months. So it gives them the hunger when they go and play in the championship next year. I want to come back here next year, and that's hopefully what will happen.
Can you do that against Man City though? Play with your 2 banks of 4 and or maybe 2 with a 4 and a 5 defensively, and then play like they did, a little bit of hitting, trying to hit them on the break. Is that the way to?
Got to.
Yeah. So it's almost trying to do the same as they've done in that second half.
Absolutely. All the teams do it against them. You know what I mean? But Man City, if you ever go at them sometimes and press them hard up the pitch, you know what I mean? They give it away. If you do it every single time, they'll pick you off. You know what I mean? But don't go gung ho. Go and do exactly the mentality what you've done there, because you don't want a cricket score against you or whatever. Yeah. They've showed that they can defend. 2 fullbacks can be fullbacks. Yeah. You know what I mean? 2 holding midfielders can be 2 holding midfield players. 2 centre halves. I've said we're centre halves, so we're going to go. You got a goalkeeper who's in top form. Hey, listen, what a great platform that is to go to Man City. Put Hernandez on. You know what I mean? Put an Eadie on. Put a Martin on. Let them have the freedom. Put balls in the channels. Let them chase it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's simple. Yeah,
and we've got the full match stats to have a look at now, and I'm sure. I mean, looking at that, possession-wise, 59. That's not a huge amount, is it? When you consider it, I know Norwich had 56 in the first half and it switched over, but you probably would have expected a bit more from Burnley. Yeah. It was easy for them, though, isn't it? As a player, from a Burnley point of view, it's easy just to switch off and you're 1-0 up against 9 men. It's easy just to see the game through. Yeah, no, absolutely. They probably 80% sure that we ain't going to concede here and whatever. But you could hear the manager, you could hear him playing, pass it quicker. And they couldn't get through the solid, compact 2 banks of 4. Yeah. That's a Premiership side, so do it. It's successful. It's something to build on. You know what I mean? Don't go sort of playing like gung-ho and whatever. Leave spaces in this division, you're punished. Yeah, and the lights have gone out at Carrow Road already. They've turned them off pretty quick. And the lights have gone out on Norwich's Premier League season. But thanks ever so much, everybody, for joining us this season. We're going to leave you with the brighter spots at Man City. We'll see you next year.
Corner. Buendia from the right-hand side delivers. McLean's header! Champions! Kenny McLean rising at the near post to head the corner firmly beyond Edison. Carrow Road is going crazy here. And now Steekman has released Pookie here. Norwich have got 2 against 1. Pookie into the penalty area square. But Carrow is 2-0. Norwich City have had 2 chances in the opening 28 minutes of this game and they've taken them both. Incredible scenes here now. And nobody saw this coming. Norwich City 2, Manchester City 0. Here has Bernardo Silva to take over, curling cross, Aguero's header, and they have got one back, Manchester City. 30 seconds to go before half-time. Man City are back in it, but Norwich City still have the lead. Norwich 2, Manchester City 1. Oh, Buendia has stolen the ball from Otamendi in the penalty area, plays it to Pookie. This is a great chance. It's 3-1. A defensive blunder at the back from Manchester City. Otamendi was robbed by his fellow Argentinian Buendia, and Buendia put that one on a play for Timu Pookie.
3-1.
Sets up Rodri, who will let fly into the net. Krul got a hand to it, couldn't keep it out. We've got some finish ahead of us now. 2.5 minutes to go, plus stoppage time. It's Norwich City 3, Manchester City 2. Rodri has his first goal for the champions, but all that's done is brought another roar out of the Carrow Road crowd. 3-2 to the Canaries. On to Todd Campbell now in the penalty area, but Campbell's only interested in that corner flag in front of the snake pit. Showing maturity and experience beyond his years here. Todd Campbell holding the ball in the corner flag, eventually conceding the throw in. 9 seconds of the stoppage time to go. Man City have it. They play it short to John Stones. Norwich putting him under pressure. Norwich have done it! Norwich have done it! That is a wonderful Carrow Road night. A night to remember. It is one of the best results in Norwich City's history. It's probably one of the biggest surprises in Premier League history. And that is not overstating it. Norwich City, with an injury list as long as your arm, have come out and beaten the champions by 3 goals to 2. It is one of the most remarkable Premier League victories you will ever see.